It's a free-for-all Friday. Welcome in. You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A little housekeeping on my end. YouTube support keeps growing and is getting more amazing by the day. I'd love to have some of my subscribers, if not all of them, download the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. It's equally as important to help the audience grow. This way, you'll never miss a moment of Locked On UConn. I can't tell you how much your support means to me. It's everything. If you're tuning in from your car or you're finishing the show, just sitting at your desk at work, drop us a 5-star review when you get a chance, maybe on your lunch break. Good reviews trigger excellent referrals for similar shows where people can find some new audience members for Locked On UConn and help the UConn audience grow. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and to get started. Well, I wanted to bring this up, and I'm going to put a graphic on the screen for those of you that are on watching on YouTube. It is a free-for-all Friday. It's the off season. We're still waiting on recruiting updates. Still waiting on potential news in the UConn world. Just some housekeeping for me. Like I said, we're starting a football show in about 3 weeks on every Friday. So this Fridays will be a Football Friday show. And we'll have that starting August 16th, a few weeks away. But I did notice something on Field of 64. They did a top 10 coaching list. And what a better time to talk through the best college coaches in all of college basketball than when there's no college basketball actually being played. So I'm going to put this list on the board here, and let's talk through it. My biggest issue with this list, let's see if we can add it. Let's add that to the stage. Okay. So as you can tell, Dan Hurley is number one, right? There is literally no argument there. I would have been shocked if they put Bill Self ahead of him. Although I know there's tons of people that love Bill Self and they think he's a great coach and yada, yada, yada for you Seinfeld fans. But let's be honest. How long has Bill Self been at Kansas? Let's take a look at that. Bill Self at Kansas. He has been there since 2003. One title. One. Isn't Kansas a blue blood? Isn't that what everyone tries to tell you, right? And this isn't a bash Kansas show. It's just him being two is, it's a little, for me, it's a little aggressive. But my issue with the list is simple as this. You have to look at it from a championship chasm, and you have to look at it from the perspective of, where someone is right now. And I think Bill Self did a great job in the transfer portal and recruiting, so they're probably going to be pretty good this year. And I'm probably going to have to deal with Kansas fans in my mentions, but that's okay. Mark Few at 3 is a reach. Mark Few is a great coach, and he has done an amazing job with Gonzaga. He's turned them into a national power, almost similar to the way Jim Calhoun did UConn, kind of in the middle of nowhere. Spokane, Washington's a little more posh than Storrs, Connecticut. So you got to give him the nod there for as far as location, but it's still in the Pacific Northwest, and it's way the hell out there. If you look at it from a championship perspective, the list should be Dan Hurley number 1, Self 2, but there's like a wide gap between the two. Then you got to go Scott Drew. He's most recent national championship 2020, I believe, right? 2021, I forget when Baylor won, but still in that range. Then it's basically who you think is the better coach, team builder. And I think you got to go. I mean, Kelvin Sampson should not be 5. He should be 4. So let's write these down. So I have Dan Hurley as my one, obviously. Then you go Bill Self. He's got a title, albeit just one. Then you go Scott Drew. You could almost put Scott Drew ahead of Bill Self because I feel like Baylor winning a national championship over Kansas, winning one national championship, that Baylor title after the scandal that they had is almost unfathomable. If I think when people thought Scott Drew took that job, he was like, "Oh, that's a nice stepping stone for him. He's going to end up, being a coach someplace else." But he turned that into a national power. So we've got Scott Drew at 3, although I think it's almost like tied. Then I'd go Calvin Sampson at 4. Kelvin at 4. Then I'd go Mark Few. Okay. Although if you want, there's an argument to it. You could put Izzo at 5 because he's won a title. Similar resume to Bill Self. Izzo at 5. Then Pitino with his 1/2 titles at 6. Then you go Kelvin Sampson. I'm sorry, Kelvin was already there. So you see what I'm saying? It's a difficult list, but I think their order is off. I think you got to drop Mark Few to number 6. You slide Scott Drew up. You slide Izzo all the way up to 5. Maybe Pitino. I think Pitino has to be in at 6. There, and then you can go Kelvin Sampson. Then you can go Nate Oates. Then you can kind of dealer's choice between Bruce Pearl and Matt Painter. It's an interesting list, and I think it's the correct folks. I don't think anyone else is in this top 10. And just as I've said on when we've done, who's your top 5 UConn players of all time or who's your Twitter GOAT, it's your own thought. And this is Field of 68. So I'm assuming it's Goodman, Douster, maybe a little Fanta, maybe some other folks. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the actual. I think the reason why I have such an issue with it is because I think I've been swayed by all the championships that UConn has won, and I think also too because I like looking at that picture of Dan Hurley fired up, like it gets me excited that the season is coming down the pipe faster than we think, but also because. Like, look at each individual. Tom Izzo's won a national championship, albeit in 2000. Rick Pitino won 2. Yes, 1 was taken away. Bruce Pearl has been kind of all over the place. Has he been sneaky and done a bunch of shady stuff at Tennessee and some other places? Absolutely. But he's a great coach, and he's a good motivator. I mean, he was winning at Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Matt Painter, another good coach. Purdue is going to be pretty good next year. I'll be interested to see what that offense looks like with no Zach Edey. Nate Oates is a riser, is an up and coming, Dan Hurley type, right? They run a similar system. Calvin's just been a constant, man. Houston was terrible before he got there. Had a great tradition. Great. It kind of is like Georgetown right now. I mean, probably not that bad, but still, I mean, like has won national championships. The history of the program, et cetera. So Mark Few being at 3 with no national championships, with just a few Final Fours. I think he went to 2. I don't see it. I think Scott Drew is. I think you could put Dan Hurley 1, Scott Drew 2, Bill Self 3. Then you go, and you can kind of pick your poison down from there. But anyway, this is a day of lists in a free for all Friday. We're going to give you the top 10 players in college basketball, Locked On UConn edition, coming up after this. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain the vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has everything you have, everything covered, with over 122 million parts from your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Did you know that the same things that fuel the best athletes in the world can still help the rest of us? Just ask Cam Spencer, who does every little thing he can do to dial his wellness, reduce inflammation in his body, and make sure he's eating healthy foods that fuel him. He does that with the help of one of Connecticut's best wellness brands. Here's what he has to say about it. I chose to partner with the Feel Good Lab because I wanted to elevate my performance. I improved my health and became more educated on my nutrition. Since we started working together, with all of those goals have been reached. Now I'm continuing to find new ways to get better with the Feel Good team. And I'm very grateful for our partnership. In fact, that's exactly why I wanted to partner with Ryan in the Feel Good Lab. They had plant-based pain relief and recovery tools of the highest quality supplements and an at-home diagnostic test that measures what foods in my body actually trigger inflammation. Plus, they're an official partner of UConn basketball. When I did this inflammation test, there were 2 healthy foods that I had absolutely no idea that I was creating inflammation in my body. One was like white fish, similar to like cod. I do tend to indulge in that every once in a while because I do have a very healthy lifestyle. And butternut squash. If you told me that butternut squash could contribute to me having inflammation, I would have told you were crazy. So the blood tells a story, and that's something that you guys can get with the Feel Good Lab in their diagnostic tests. I'm on week 7 of my wellness journey, and so far I feel great. So if you want to use the Feel Good Lab, use the code Cam Spencer, all capital letters, Cam Spencer, for 12% off your order and 10% in addition to a 10% donation to Bleeding Blue for Good. So we just reviewed the top 10 coaches in college basketball. This is my official list. I kind of hemmed and hawed and went through it. So I think there's Dan Hurley. There's a wide chasm till you get to either Bill Self or Scott Drew. I think you can kind of tie them at 2. Then I have Tom Izzo at 4 because I feel like you have to emphasize the championships that championship that he won. Rick Pitino at 5. Then I go Mark Few at 6. Then I go Kelvin Sampson at 7. Nate Oates at 8. Bruce Pearl at 9. Matt Painter at 10. So that's to round it off, and tell me what you think. Maybe we'll figure it out. The top 10 players in college basketball. This is the Field of 68. Thank you so much for the inspiration. I think that I wanted to do this for a little bit because I'm going to tell you guys there's 2 UConn players in this list. So rack your brain and think about who I think this is going to be. But let's go through the list right now. Number 10 on the list, Hunter Dickinson, our favorite, Kansas. He stands out as one of the most dominant centers in college basketball, standing at 7'1". Dickinson brings a unique combination of size, skill, and basketball IQ to the Kansas Jayhawks. He is a formidable presence in the paint. He excels in both scoring and rebounding. He's a double-double machine. He is an ability to alter shots. I don't think he's not exactly I wouldn't call him a classic shot blocker, but you're a 7'1" man. You're a space eater. He's critical for them to kind of make that next leap. I know the investment that they made last year, I think what was it, like $2 million, didn't become a championship, but he's back again this year for year number 27. Just kidding. I think it's 6. Dickinson's experience and leadership are invaluable assets to Kansas's championship aspirations. Number 9, Aiden Mahaney, shooting guard, point guard, UConn. I believe Aiden Mahaney is at minimum a top 20 player. And the reason why I'm putting him in, if he never transferred from St. Mary's, he's a top 20, top 25 player in the country. So what makes him number 9, top 10 player in the country now? He's a versatile guard who played in a system that didn't really maximize his potential. Randy Bennett is a great coach. Dan Hurley is an exceptional coach. And what I mean by that is he has taken players like Cam Spencer, who played for Steve Peichel, another good coach, and created a monster. And I think Aiden Mahaney has that ability. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's a sharpshooter. He's a constant offensive threat. He has agility and quickness that is what you wouldn't expect from his makeup, his size. He's put on a little weight. He's getting better on defense in terms of his ability to move his feet. I think his quickness allows him to navigate defense with ease. If you see, think about some of the videos we've seen, and this is not to pick on Ahmad Noel. He's a really good player. He's a freshman, but Ahmad Noel is fast. He's not like quick or sneaky fast, as I like to say. My man is an absolute cheetah. And Ada Mahaney put a move on him that had him literally going off the screen. So the dude's got wiggle. He has a knack for stepping up in critical moments. He was a big time clutch player for St. Mary's. His all around game of leadership on the court are a vital key to UConn looking to three-peat. And I think he's a top 10 player. Number 8, RJ Davis, point guard, North Carolina. RJ is a standout point guard for North Carolina. If you don't know that already, known for his exceptional ball handling and playmaking skills. He has the ability to control tempo. This is something that almost every guard in this list has in common: controlling tempo, not going just one speed, make smart decisions in game, typically under pressure, although in the NCAA tournament last year he fell short. But I'm sure that's going to be a motivator for this year. His quickness and defensive tenacity make him a formidable opponent, although he's very small. He has quick hands, active hands, deflections. He's an absolute leader for UNC, and Davis plays a pivotal role in North Carolina's quest for success in the highly competitive ACC, as long as the ACC still exists. Well, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss news and analysis, opinions, streaming 24/7 at YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Back to the list. Number 7, my good friend Mark Sears, point guard from Alabama. Mark Sears is a dynamic point guard for Alabama. That's a great way to put it, because he is just bouncy, right? You know, he's a jack in the box. Like you, I have kids, right? You do that little jack in the box thing that just pops out. That's Mark Sears. He's 5'11". He needs all of that explosiveness and IQ to get shots off in penetrate defenses in the paint. He can finish at the rim, sort of more under the rim. His vision and passing skills are very underrated. I think he distributes the ball very effectively in Nate Oates' offense, making his teammates better. He's also an incredible shooter. And also, I think his off the dribble shooting is second to none. His versatility and leadership are critical to get Alabama back to a Final Four in their fast-paced, aggressive offense. Number 6, before we round out this top 6, I think, or the top part of the top 10, I struggled with this one, but I think this kid is an absolute beast, and he's a transfer from BYU. Jackson Robinson. He transferred from Kentucky to play with Mark Pope, his former coach at BYU. He is an NBA prototype. He's a wing, 6'6", maybe 6'7", can play multiple positions, including point guard. He's more probably of a shooting guard in college or a wing. His athleticism and scoring ability make him valuable assets to Kentucky's rebuild, where they have, I think, 27 new players. While his defensive versatility allows him to guard multiple positions effectively, it's really Robinson's offensive prowess that is going to make him this top 10 player in not only the SEC, but the NCAA as a whole. He is critical to Kentucky contributing to a successful season in the SEC. What that looks like, I don't know. I definitely think that Kentucky is going to be a lot better than what people think. You know, we joked around about them when Dan Hurley was not considering an offer from them. But yeah, Kentucky's always going to be good. That's just the bottom line. And it's just the expectation level of the Kentucky fans sometimes needs to be checked. We'll see where I rank Alex Caravan and the rest of the players in the top 10 coming up after this. If I love sports, I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down and we get fewer games, the sports stop sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets, and anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I think a four-leg single game parlay for the evening is where you guys should go. It's pretty good value if you're a Yankee Red Sox fan of either side. You got Juan Soto, Rafael Devers, Aaron Judge, Jarren Duran, all to record 2+ total bases. It's plus 1250. So $10 wager wins you $125. Definitely worth a play. I'm in for $10 on that. Let's see how it goes. And we're going to show you the rest of my top 10 after this. All right, we're back on Locked On UConn. If you've stayed this long, and I hope you have, to find out my 5 through 1 players, let's rip through them, right? Ryan Kalkbrenner, number 5, center from Creighton. Ryan is an interesting cat. He is the only, well, not the only player. He may be the only player to go after something, but he is a 3-time defensive player of the year. He is of the 3-time defensive player of the year in the Big East. That ties both Alonzo Mourning and Patrick Ewing from Georgetown, because when I think defensive player of the year and Alonzo Mourning and Patrick Ewing, my first thought is Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's a standout center for Creighton. He's an impressive shot blocker. I'll give him that. His defensive presence, obviously standing 7'1", similar to Hunter Dickinson, although he's a much better rim protector. That's why he's 5 and Hunter is 10 in this list. And he's a good shooter. I think if he utilizes his size and his shooting stroke, he can really be a reliable kind of stretch 5. So although I don't know if McDermott will utilize him in that regard, because let's be honest, when you have a 7'1" center in college, you don't want him shooting threes. That's for the next level. So, I think that's the biggest key for Ryan Kalkbrenner is some offense, but really keep dominating on defense, and that's why he's in my top 5. Number 4, Kadari Richmond, point guard, shooting guard, St. John's, formerly of Seton Hall. UConn fans know Kadari Richmond all too well. The guy is essentially turns into LeBron James and Michael Jordan combined when he plays against UConn. So we'll see him at least twice next year. I'm not looking forward to it because he's a versatile guard for St. John's. He's capable of scoring, creating for his teammates, being active with his hands, being an absolute menace on the ball. He's known for his strong defensive skills, obviously. I think in one game last year, he had 23, or maybe it was 2 years ago, 23 points, 9 rebounds, and like 8 steals. Like he becomes, and I think he can do this because if you look at Rick Pitino's history with guards, that's why people go there. That's why people go to be coached by Rick Pitino, because he is an absolute guard whisperer. And not that Shaheen Holloway isn't a good coach. I think this transfer portal has taught us that as you get closer to being drafted and closer to playing at the next level, you try to maximize your ability to the best of it. And I think Kadari is doing that. So he can shoot it from the perimeter, facilitate their offense. He is an absolute dual threat. And I think his leadership is really going to help St. John's surprise some folks in the Big East. Number 3, our favorite son, Alex Caravan. Small forward, power forward from UConn. He is an absolute key cog in UConn's machine. He has versatility, strength, power forward position, small forward position. Will play center against Zach Edey for a stretch. He is known as the brain center. We've talked about this a million times. He has an incredibly high basketball IQ, like having a coach on the court. He is a scoring and a playmaker. And what I say by playmaker is not in the traditional sense. When you watch him play, when you see the back screens he sets, the pin downs, the ability to put people in the right places, that's his playmaking. He is not going to, break you off the dribble, although he does have a quicker step than most people think. He can stretch the floor with his shooting, and his range is easily to 28 feet. He creates mismatches inside when teams don't have, players at his level. And he also creates mismatches by drawing larger players out that have to guard him in the perimeter. So he is a formidable offensive threat. Defensively, Caravan is an underrated shot blocker, and I think he uses his intelligence more to guard multiple positions effectively. His leadership and all-around game are central to UConn's aspirations for a three-peat. Number 2, Johnell Davis, formerly of Florida Atlantic, now follows his coach, Dusty May, to Michigan. He's a dynamic guard for Michigan, known for his scoring ability, defensive tenacity. He's capable of playing both shooting guard and point guard. The thing I love about Johnell Davis is he's got this OG mid-range game. And as much as I love the Nate Oates, Dan Hurley, quick, threes and, easy twos, there's the most unguardable shot in basketball outside of just a wide open dunk is when you're going hard to the hoop and you take that one last hard dribble and you rise up and you can't guard it. You can put a hand up, but in terms of actually getting that done, it's Michael Jordan's mid-range game. In fact, if you go all the way back, my dad used to talk about that. Jerry West used to talk about that, like when he's going to the hoop and he would take that one last hard dribble, rise up and shoot, and no one could stop it. So, but that's the type of game that Johnell Davis has, and it makes him, I think he averaged 19 points a game last year. He's a volume shooter, and I think when people were asking me during the transfer portal if he was a fit for UConn, he isn't, because he plays a different style game than we do here, but he's definitely a top 2-player, 3-player in the country, in my opinion. His all-around skill set and competitiveness make him an absolute threat in the Big Ten for Big Ten Player of the Year, and I'm looking forward to what that Michigan team looks like next year. Number 1, now I don't know if this is controversial, but I have Johni Broome as the number 1 player in the country right now. He's a 6'10" freak. He can do it all. He's versatile. He can play a wing. He can play power forward. I mean, you could probably put him at the 5. He's both great on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. He can shoot it a little bit. I think he was 35% from 3 last year. He's working on that. But it's his ability to score around the basket, finish strong through contact. He poses a constant threat to defenses, and his length and agility allow him to guard multiple positions effectively. I mean, you could probably put Johni Broome on a point guard if you really needed it, just to kind of mess with them, kind of like Willie Cauley-Stein used to do back in the day. So, really comprehensive skill set. It's pivotal to Auburn's ambitions this season, again, in the very good SEC. That's the list. Let me know where you think I'm crazy. And until then, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports streaming channel on YouTube. It's now also available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. Enjoy your Friday. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies.